This meeting is being recorded.
Now I gotta watch what I say, huh? Shabbat Shalom, Baruch Hashem. But here in Shemuel Aleph, chapter 3, the young boy Shemuel served Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh before Eli. The word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh was scarce in those days. Now I want you to read that for a few times. Okay? The word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh was scarce in those days. That is the premise in and of itself. Okay? I want you to think about that for a moment. They didn't have the Tanakh in those days. They didn't have that whole compilation of Torah, the prophets, and the writings, much less a New Testament if it were to be read. Now, that's an important thing to understand in this passage. But they're not talking about the written word. They're not talking about, as we know it, the Tanakh or Torah, the prophets, and the writings. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about people they could trust that the Most High would speak to, called a seer or prophet, because before they were called prophets, they were called seers. Okay? So he was not revealing too many things to too many people in these days. Now, if you were to do a study on what part of history, what area of history that we're in here, okay, that would probably help you understand why this is being said. Okay? Now, Eli was considered a prophet as well as a Cohen, a priest of the sons of Aharon. Okay? Shemuel was born of the same tribe and of the sons of Aharon because his father was a Cohen as well. His mother was a Levi. Okay? So he's speaking here based on his perspective as a son of Aharon. Okay? The word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh was scarce in those days. Vision was not widespread. So he was not given it very many people to hear or to see. So if he was not giving this out very often, what would that make people feel like?
Abandoned.
There is a history starting with the Avot, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, as well as from them others, including but not uh, only Moshe, Yehoshua, etc., that had very real relationships with the Most High. They would speak with him. They would take time with him. I've heard a lot of people say that they envy Moshe for his relationship with the Most High. I'm a little more envious of Yehoshua because when Moshe would leave the tent, Yehoshua would stay. So the very first area of relationship we encounter before this writing before us is when the Most High would choose somebody and he would speak with him So they not only heard the word, they were given vision to see. They were opened up to him. He was, in fact, revealing himself. If you can hear him, whether it's audibly inside of you, whether it's that still quiet voice, whether or not it's in a vision, whatever way he chooses to reveal himself, that is the beginning of you knowing him on a personal basis. And it, in fact, lets us know this. The lamp of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh had not yet gone out, and Shemuel was lying down in the temple of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh where the ark of Elohim was. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh called to Shemuel, and he said, "Here I am." He ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" But he said, "I did not call, go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh went on calling, "Shemuel." So Shemuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" But he said, "I did not call, my son, go back and lie down." Now in verse 7 here in the Tanakh, it should stimulate you a little bit. Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. And not only knowing that, and the word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh had not yet been revealed to him. This is a phenomenal statement. It wasn't just one, but it was two different areas that the Most High had not yet revealed himself. Consider that. Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and the word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh had not yet been revealed to him. Two separate areas that had not been revealed. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh called again, Shemuel, a third time. And he got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli realized that Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh was calling the boy. And he said to Shemuel, "Go and lie down. And if he calls you, you should say, 'Speak, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, for your servant is listening.'" Shemuel went and lay down in his place. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh came, which would mean he revealed, and he appeared and called as the other time, "Shemuel, Shemuel." And Shemuel said, "Speak, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, for your servant is listening." And then, verse 11 through 14 is what he spoke. Now, as he speaks, take note that he is revealing himself, his presence, speech, his word is being revealed to young Shemuel. This area is worth a lot of study, not just once, but 1,000 times over. So I would submit to you, based on what we've looked at thus far here, that unless the Most High himself chooses to reveal himself to you or chooses to reveal his word, you're not going to know him. No matter how much scripture you study, no matter how many prayers that you give, no matter how many praises you give, no matter how much praise you sing, If he does not choose to reveal himself, his presence, his voice, his word, you will not know him. I've been, are you attempting to get my attention, Hannah? Go ahead.
Based upon like what we shared earlier this week, does that go back to that where it says, if you seek for me with your whole heart, and he put an if there, because unless we do it wholeheartedly in coming to him with no agendas, back to our basic needs. Wow. 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 If we don't come to him with our agenda, he said, then you will find me. Wow. Okay. That just made sense. Thank you. Okay, you told me not to do that. Share. Well, this week, there was, and this.
Go ahead.
This was when I understood why he allowed me to find him. And it did make me weep when I understood it. And that's why he says, no matter how much we know, how much we understand supposedly understand of the scripture from a human side, or how many prayers and praise, because he says, if you seek for me with your whole heart, and that's getting beyond our wants, our needs, and our desires. He says, then you will find me. That's the only time we're going to find him, when we can get beyond what we want, what we need, and what we desire. And so many people, they're like he said, even you think about most big pastors and ministers, it's their need to be known, their need to be heard, need to be lauded, or whatever else they want out of it. I don't know all their heart's agendas, but it's not about him. They would walk away and give the truth if it was really about him. So it's getting beyond our needs in this life, our wants and desires. I got it. Ricochet.
Now, this is one of the very few places that you see this so openly and so obviously. First, of course, we have the explanation. Okay. Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. This is the premise. This is how it begins. It doesn't say anything else yet. This is how it begins. Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Okay. I need to make sure that this point is understood in such a way that it's anchored within you. Okay? If you lose this, you've lost a lot. It says, it's a fairly good translation here. Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. It's not talking about how the Most High knows us. It's speaking specifically here that Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the Most High. Okay? He didn't yet know him. Now, he's of the line of sons of Aharon. He sees things going on around him. He sees the service at the temple. He sees people bringing offerings. He sees people bringing their petitions. And yet and still, even though he's surrounded by it, he still has not known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh himself. This is really important to understand, not only for yourself, but for others. Because most of the people with biblical questions, they're in the same position. They may have been in synagogue or church or temple or whatever you want to call it all of their life. But if they have not known the Most High, that's where they're at. So if you have not known him, when you study scripture, when you get around church people, when you get around Jewish people, when you get around them and you've got this language that's common to all, you're in the culture, you're in the traditions, you have the vocabulary, you have the friendships, you've got everything except the most important thing. You don't know him. And then Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, and the word of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh had not yet been revealed to him. So we have two things going on here that you have to expressly get acquainted with. I won't stretch it to say you have to know it, because to know it, it has to be revealed to you by him. That's beyond your ability to do independently of him. You cannot know him independent of him being in that relationship and initiating it. It is not your choice and it's not your decision to say, I know him. It's his choice, his decision to do this. This is of an import that I cannot impart it to you with adequate vocabulary and adequate depth for you to receive from me the way that I would like you to receive it. It's a process. If you have not known him and his word has not been revealed to you, you're going to do everything humanly possible to supplement that. You want to have the right vocabulary. You want to have the right spiritual friends. You want to go to every service possible. You want to conduct yourself well. You want to be obedient in all things scriptural. You have based on the examples you've seen from other people, oh, they're being blessed. Oh, they're getting a lot. Oh, their life is great. I want some of this. So you're seeking after something that you feel is going to benefit you. But if you have not yet known him, you intrinsically, you have no clue as to why that would be important to you or to the Most High. There's two separate things going on here. One, the Most High is going to keep his word. And we're still living generations since his original promises to the Avot. We're still enjoying the result of those promises that have been unfolded, not the ones that haven't unfolded yet. Okay? We're in covenant with him. You don't have to know him to be in covenant with him. Because before we ever got to this place that we can study today, once our people experience the Exodus, the Most High says, you will be my people and I will be your Elohim. That was not a suggestion. It was not a request. It was not a question. You will be my people and I will be your Elohim. That was a premise that he set up. There was no choice in that matter. There was no free will. That was the first time that the Most High went beyond the avot to say, you will be my people and I will be your Elohim. So this is the first time that he's actually spreading it out. Based on this, we know that the very first step in having a possibility of knowing him is coming into covenant with him. Needing to be in covenant with him. Desiring to be in covenant with him. Wanting to be in covenant with him. Now, I use the English word want relative to people being native English speakers here, but the word want, even in English, means lack. I'll be right back.
Michael, if you want to pause, I'll share some of the scriptures. Or if you want to keep it going, I don't know.
Thank you for allowing me that moment.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, you put it on pause, huh? Okay, well, I keep a little cohesiveness there. Now, first we have covenant. You will be my people, I will be your Elohim. That's covenant. There is no relationship there other than we're his people and he's going to tell us what to do. Okay? That's the beginning. Got it? Now, when Shemuel finally said, speak, Yod-Heh-Wahe, for your servant is listening. That word there is not like a butler or a maid. What do you think that word for servant really is? I'll let you think about that. Yod-Heh-Wahe said to Shemuel, see that I am going to do such a thing in Israel, that when anyone hears of it, both their ears will ring. Now remember, it doesn't say house of Yaakov or the area of Yaakov. It says in Israel. And at this time, when you mention Israel, you're always talking about the people of Israel. And what does Israel mean? Those who overcome, those who prevail, or prevailing and overcoming, depending on first, second, third person, and what tense that you want to be using as well there. Okay? So, understanding that, see that I am going to do such a thing of my people, because he said, you will be my people and I will be your Elohim. So when you see Israel, you could easily say the Most High is speaking of his people. You can't be called Israel if you don't belong to him. Okay? That when anyone hears of it, remember the word for hear in Hebrew is Shema. That's not just hearing, but what? Hearing and doing. So what's he really saying here? See that I'm going to do such a thing among my people that when anyone hears and does it, both their ears will ring from the hearing and the doing. So he's revealing himself, making himself known to Shemuel, and he's revealing his word to him. Throughout this whole passage. Everybody with me? Now, I would like for you to go to John 16. I'm working from the Aramaic English at the moment, from Roth. And John 16. And verse 1. I have spoken these things with you that you might not stumble. For they will drive you out from their assemblies, and will come a time that all who kill you will think that they offer an offering to Elohim. And they will do these things because they know neither my Father nor myself. They will do these things because they neither know my Father nor myself. Find a little correlation there? Now, take this under consideration for a moment. If you can take a moment, you can live 10,000 lifetimes. Everything is now. Everything is now, the present moment. We never live past, we never live the future. Everything is always today. Everything is always the present moment. When you woke up this morning, you said, well, at 1:30, I'm gonna get a lesson. Here we are past 1:30, and you say, I'm receiving a lesson. So when the lesson is over, you're gonna say, oh, I received a lesson today. As you go through this, but the moment where you're actually speaking it, regardless of what you're speaking of, is always now, the present moment. So if the Most High takes the time in a moment to make us to know him or to reveal his word, that moment is in a present moment for us. And if we humble ourselves before him, we can stay in that moment our entire life. This is important for you to grasp. Okay? Now, for Hananiah, for Michael, for Mark, remember the day when I say remember the day, I'm also saying speak on behalf of the day. I say this to men, not women, because being men, being the head, being coverings, one way or the other, sooner or later, that you will be required by the Most High to speak on behalf of the moment. That moment is whenever he does make himself known to you and he reveals his word. So you'll need to be able to speak on behalf of that moment. Now, Michael and Mark, may I use you for a teaching point for a moment?
Sure.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Recall the day that you got married. Recall, for example, how you felt about that woman you married. In the moment that you got married, that day, when you were joined with her, was there anything more important to you than that woman that you chose to have with you? Was there anything more important to you? So would it be easy to say that you had a moment? Well, you have to always speak on behalf of that moment, always remember that moment, because no matter how old you get, you will always have to remember that choice for each other. You chose her, she chose you. That's the way that you're supposed to remember each other. From the day that you joined, that's the moment that you remember each other. Remembering, of course, meaning speak on behalf of each other. Okay? From the moment the Most High makes himself known to us, that we experience what Shemuel experienced. Because when he makes himself known is the first time that we will know him. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Because it says in verse 7, Shemuel had not yet known Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Now this is a really strong juncture. I have to skip for a moment. But let's hold on to where we're at the same time. In John 17, Yeshua speaks in his prayer to the Father, I've kept everybody by the power of your name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the name that you gave me. So then we would have to ask, when did the Most High give or share Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh as a name to him? The only possible answer we find in the writing of Revelation around chapter 8, when it says that the Lamb was slain at the foundation of the world, referring to that Lamb that John called his cousin. Okay? Now, if he was worthy at the foundation of the world to be the Lamb, when do you think the Father would have shared Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh as a name with him? When we look in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, we see the Most High speaking. We find out later in the prophets when the Most High would speak, his word went forth. So when his word went forth, his word would have to be carrying that name, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, as well. And where did that word come from? It had to come from the right hand of power. So, now that we skipped a bit, you have a better understanding who Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is at this point, and who is actually being revealed to the boy Shemuel. Does that close the loop a little bit? Does that help?
Oh, yeah.
Now here in John 16, and they will do these things because they know neither my Father nor myself. I've spoken these things with you. Now, read this carefully, that when their time comes, you might know them, that I have told you these things. Now, in English, it doesn't hardly make any sense. I have spoken these things with you, that when their time comes, you might know them. Is it speaking about the people or those times? You might know those times that I've told you these things, or you might know those people that I've told you those things. Okay?
You drew a picture of Rabbi.
Okay, well, thank you so much. There's got to be an improvement.
It's I just wanted to draw a picture of you because I love you.
Well, thank you for that perspective and all that love.
You're welcome.
You're going to have to send that to me, Mark.
Okay.
Make sure the artist signs his rendition.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I've had to bring this out because everything is based on him choosing to make himself known to us and his word. Without that, we don't have anything with him. We can be in covenant with him, but we can't accomplish anything else. So, are we able as human beings to persuade the Most High to make himself known to us so that we could know something of him, whatever he's revealed, and reveal his word? Is there a way we can persuade him, cajole him, beg him in any way at all from our end? Can we persuade him to reveal anything to us? That was a question.
Yes.
How would we do that?
Ask him.
And what would be the basis of him responding to you? You got covenant with him, but you don't know him yet. This is why we need to have an understanding based on the Most High's perspective from what he's revealed in Scripture. He works off of two basic ideas with us. Okay? The first premise that he works with us on is based on his promises to the Avot, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He made promises to them, and now he's bound to those promises to fulfill his promises with the seed of Abraham. That's the first premise he works off of. And we have a lot of reference that supports that. Okay? Now, the second reason that he would respond to us in any way at all is to get honor for himself from our lives. When he gets honor for himself from our lives, he can use us to fulfill his purposes in his kingdom. But he's got to be able to get honor for himself from our lives. Is this making sense so far? Is coming together a little bit? So, if he's fulfilling his promises to Abraham, and he's getting honor for himself from our lives, that is the premise that has to be established between him and us and him, in order for him to make that choice so that we know him in whatever way he chooses to reveal himself. And he becomes known to us. And that he would reveal his word to us. Is this making any sense at all? The importance of this is beyond the value that I can assign to it. Okay? I'm not making any attempt here to suggest that has not happened to you. We don't have an altar call at the end of this lesson. Okay? But you need to have some idea of the importance of him making the choice to make himself known to us, each of us individually, and establish a way for him to get honor from our lives so that he can call us his servants and use us to, through our life, to fulfill his purposes in his kingdom through our life. That can only be done by him in our lifetime. We are benefiting from his promises to Abraham and him being able to get honor from our lives. Both have to happen. This is what it takes for him to begin revealing himself, and based on what he reveals of himself to us individually, is going to prove to be the fabric, the premise of a relationship with him. And no matter how many people put their hands on your head, no matter how many people are interceding for you, everything is based on this. Is everybody with me? In order for him to choose to reveal himself, to make himself known, and to reveal his word to us, we have got to be in covenant with him, because being in covenant with him is the only way we're going to have some reflection of his promises to Abraham come to bear in our lives. And he's got to be able to get honor for himself from our lives. If we don't have covenant with him, he won't be calling us his own. This is important because even when Yeshua, during the Pesach Seder, lifted his cup and said, "This is the cup of the covenant." Oh, he wasn't doing anything brand new. He was reminding people of the covenant. Not a new covenant, getting rid of the old covenant, but enlarging the covenant, adding a facet to it, another chapter to it. You doing okay? All right. Is everybody with me? Everything that we do in Scripture, everything that we study, every effort we make in prayer, every effort we make in praise is based on this. How do we get into covenant? That's what we ask for. I want to have a covenant relationship with you. And for men, that also means you're going to have the token of the covenant. For the women, you have to have your covering that has covenant and the token of the covenant. Now, for a woman, her covering has to either be her father or other near kinsman that's a man. If a woman does not have that, what is her covering beyond that? If she does not have a near kinsman or even a husband.
Cohen,
Say it again.
Cohen,
Yes. We know that a woman will not be uncovered in Israel. Now, one of the choices we're supposed to make even for marriage, part of our diligence is to establish, one, is that person in covenant with the Most High? And two, is he getting honor from their lives? Do they have a relationship with him through that? But people aren't taught a whole lot about it, so they may not know that. You okay? Is this making any sense? I need some feedback at this point.
yes.
Indeed.
Now you understand the Most High's part. Our part is for observance. Okay? As a single commandment.
Did you want something, Nate?
Sure. Everybody with me on this? Now, aside from a covenant relationship and Torah observance, we have to make a conscious choice within ourselves. And that choice is a part of Torah observance. Shema Yisrael. Anybody remember that? Why is the Shema so important? Why does that have to be the very first things that children learn? The Shema, even as a song, even as it is canted. Hear and do, overcomers, prevailers. Yod Hey Wahe is one. Yod Hey Wahe is Echad. Within the Shema is the very fabric of our covenant with Him. How's this feeling to you, Michael?
I like it.
Does that add a little bit more of a dimension to things?
Yes, it does.
How about you, Mark?
Same for me.
How about you, Hannah? How
Yeah,
many times you guys heard me say in the past? There might be a few things we haven't studied yet. Do you have a question or comment, Hannah? Sure you want me to get you a chair here?
No, I go to the bedroom.
Oh, okay.
now he's letting me see the 633 where it says seek first the kingdom. Because it's literally all about the kingdom.
You won't be able to do that if you haven't understood the Shema into the activity of your life.
Right. You can't walk with him if you can't hear and do what he says. You're not walking in Torah, basically. You may have,
That's right.
and that's like you said, you're gonna ride that ticket. Oh well, I'm a part of Israel. No, that's not it. But okay. And that's where a lot of, most of the world, and now I get that 1/3 too. As most people will believe that they are walking with him. And that's the first thing from the truth. They're walking in their ways. They're not walking in his ways. And that's on both sides of the fence, the Kirka, the church, and the rabbinics. So, both ways. He chose not to use his way.
And how many times you heard me say, it is always His way.
And Israel is the ones that are like you said, overcoming. They're choosing. They're choosing him, regardless of what they're going through. And they're not gagoozling about it. They're not complaining.
Oh.
That's it. I'm out.
Okay. Now, what I've presented to you thus far today, this has to be what you carry is that one single moment of all your life. You've got to carry this into everything with the Most High. This is the basis of your whole relationship. This is the basis of everything. I know what Christians are taught, that their relationship is through Yeshua to the Father. But Yeshua even says in Matthew, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. I'm the only one that knows the Father and those who I choose to reveal him to, which is not many. Okay? So, we have the same one who is Echad with the Father, that has the use of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh as a name, okay? Now, there used to be something said that is no longer popular, okay, in the last 2,500 years. They would say, Shema Hashem. Shema Hashem. They made it into a little rhyme. I'm going to leave the rest of that alone for a few minutes. Now, Michael, if you would, forgive me for a moment, but if we can adjourn for an earlier than usual time for a break for lunch, it would be appreciated.
Sure.
You guys can stay on and discuss it if you like.
Hey, I'm ready for lunch too.